Hi, my name is Newell Davis with World Composting, and it's been quite a while since I've posted a video actually showing my worm bag systems and how they're doing. I'm going to try to get back into this, but I have been taking care of these worms since my last video. I've fed them a few times, but I'm really only doing top feedings and I'm not adding a whole lot of bedding material. So with that, we're going to do a deep dive into the system, see if the worms are still alive with how cold it's been. I mean, my fingers are a little chilly. It's down in the was down around 0 degrees here for a while in Maryland, and now it's back up and it's been bouncing around. But the basement got pretty cold, and I didn't have a heat pack in there, and I was gone for a while, so I don't know how they're doing right now. I've been adding in a lot of my material for my Vitamix, and I'm hoping that that was warming up, but I don't know. I didn't really check it. So with that, we're going to do a deep dive into this urban worm bag that we have going that has the African night crawlers in it. We're going to add some food. If we find worms, we're going to add some food, but we're at least going to add water no matter what, because there should be some cocoons in there that hopefully would survive all this and come back up when it heats up. So with that, let's go take a look and do our deep dive into this system and see how it's doing. All right, here's our urban worm bag right here. We're going to go ahead and open this up. Oh wow, there's actually a lot of mold growing in here. Look at this. I'm not seeing many worms. I see one actually dried out on the surface there. So this last feeding that I had, I thought that it was a little bit more moist than it was. Now I'm going to wet this down actually. I'm not sure what to do with this. I've never had this much mold in one of my systems before. I really had just little amounts, but I don't like having it really just wet. I want to make sure I wet it down, I think, to make sure that it kind of stays place. And I might put a mask on here. So just in case, I'm going to put an N95 mask on. Like, mold can be really bad for you to breathe in. There is some black mold in there. So, and this is what can happen also. So I've got a mask on now, an N95 mask. Make sure it's on there really well. This stuff can be really bad to get in your house, and this is why I don't store anything in cardboard really in my house. Everything goes in plastic containers. I'm just going to grab my little sprayer here, if I can get it to work. I see some clouds coming off here, but I'm hoping that I can kind of tap them down pretty quickly. So, yeah, you got to be real careful with this stuff. You don't want to breathe it in. I actually will put a filter down here that'll filter all that stuff out. I have a bunch of filters in my house, so I'm not too worried about that, but I'm really surprised to see that in there. I'd already fed a couple times with this type of mix and had no issues with it, so it's very surprising here to see this. It looks like it just sort of didn't really mix in very well, so maybe I see some more clouds coming off there with that. Hold on. As I said, you should really, if you're doing this, you got this type of mold, you want to be careful. Look at this. Look at this. It's dripping a little bit, but you can see all of the millipedes in there, so they're breaking stuff down pretty well. But nothing else is. All right, so let me just make sure we get all this stuff here. All that dust coming off is actually mold spores. That's why we're trying to wet it down. That way it sort of stays in place. It can't really fly if it's wet. As I said, though, I'm wearing a mask right now. I don't want to breathe this stuff in. And I'm going to have a fan going down here later that can filter this out. I keep filters going in all my rooms in my house normally. But yeah, this is very surprising. I've been doing this quite a while. It's the first time I've ever seen this in any of my worm bins quite like this. Let's try to knock all that stuff down. All right, well, the first good thing here is I do see a worm in here. And I bet this is for me not really throwing in much cardboard. I should have really covered this up with cardboard, and that probably would have fixed this issue, so it wouldn't have been any mold. I'm just making sure that it's all wet. It's going to stay in place. We'll bury this in the system. Hope that this doesn't rear its head again. I'll have to check on this a little sooner. You can see it's pretty moist under here. All right, hold on, let me just turn this spray system off here. It's really surprising. I've been doing this now for a while where I've just been adding more and more of the stuff to the top. This is the first time I've seen that. All right, first off, we saw a worm before, but here's another worm right here. So we do have worms in here still. We've got the African night crawlers in here. Hopefully, big problem is the temperature, I think, is just too cold probably for them right now. In fact, let's just, there's another worm right here, or two worms. In fact, let me see, do I have my temperature gun over here? Give me a second, let me grab that. All right, I'm just going to read the temperature. It says 62 degrees. I don't know if you can see that or not. It shows up, it looks like it's too bright on there anymore, and I'll take it out of the system. But it says 62 degrees. Maybe that would be better. So yeah, so it's really cold. This is about the minimum these worms can handle before they just die, is in the 60s. Here's a big one right here. You can see though, they're not very lively. This is way too cold for them. But there are a bunch of them in here. There's enough moisture to keep them alive. The millipedes are going to town like crazy. But we're gonna need to do some stuff here to try to keep all these worms alive, which is get some more heat in this system. So I think what we're gonna do is we just mixed everything up pretty well. We're gonna dig a hole here in the middle. And normally I don't dig a hole in these systems. Normally I just put stuff in here and add stuff to the top. I'm seeing a lot of worms, but they're not very lively. We're going to dig a hole here. We're going to try to create a hot spot by adding a mixture of cardboard, your carbons and your greens. So we're going to add some of this stuff from my Vitamix. And then we're going to add some cardboard, and we're just going to get it wet. And I'm hoping that that sort of changes the dynamic in here. But there are worms, which is important. I'm also going to add some food in here as well, some actual food. So this time we're going to add some greens. I've got some stuff in here. But actually, you know what? Let's wait a second. Let's put some cardboard down in here first. And hold on just a second here. I'm bringing over a big thing of wet cardboard because it should be wet to start with anyhow. So let me just take that off. I got a lid on here. All right. So we're going to start with that. We're going to dump in this frozen food that's in here. And the hope is that this will sort of initiate a kind of compost reaction, a small one, generate some heat. Be nice if I had some coffee grounds in there, but I don't drink coffee anymore. I've been drinking tea. So I have lots of tea stems, but very little coffee. So I'm just going to break this up a little bit here. All right, so there's our first step, is getting some food in here. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to add in a shovelful. And I'll show you what I mean by shovelful here. Hold on a second. So I cut out a container that I had vinegar in, and we're going to put a whole bunch of this stuff in here. So you can see this is all very, very dry. This is from my Vitamix. This is a mixture of different foods. This is all blended up, dehydrated. And then what we need to do is we need to moisten it down, and we're going to cover it with more paper. Oh, hold on, I got to turn this back on. There we go. And what I'm hoping is that this will kind of react with the paper that we're going to put on top and everything, and it's going to cause a reaction where instead of getting mold like we had last time, it heats up, we get kind of a composting reaction. The worms can flock to this where there's heat and it consume this pretty quickly. So, actually there were some coffee grounds in there. I didn't see those, I thought there were none in there. So anyhow, this is the hope behind this, is that this will get them working in this area. Okay, that's good for that for the moment. Put that down. Now we're going to pour in the rest of our paper. There's a lot of moisture in here too in this paper. There we go. That's a good amount of paper to kind of cover everything. And then we're going to go ahead and cover this up with these pieces right here. Kind of keep this more enclosed this time. And then I think I'm going to throw the rest of this paper on top. Now, hopefully the black mold that we saw and the mold in here doesn't spread too far in here. I'm hoping that next time I open this up, the worms have kind of gone to town, they finished all that off. We're usually, I think the only times I've had mold in these systems, typically the worms have sort of eaten it all. And usually it's not left over in the system. Usually they've consumed everything, and I've never seen it in the past. So there we go. Just empty that out. Actually, let me rinse this out real quick. The glove was a little dirty that I was reaching in there with. So, as I said, I haven't really seen that before in my bins, especially that much. But it shows that it's been a couple weeks since I last checked on this, and before that, it's been 4 months since I last showed you this system. I have a date here that's written on the side here that says November 9th. Or 19th, looks like was the last time we updated you on the system. And it's February 6th right now. So it's been a long time between updates, but I have been keeping track of the system. I have been doing updates on it. In fact, I'm going to grab a little bit more paper. This is going to be dry paper that I'm adding to the top. There should be plenty of moisture in there right now. But I got a big container of dry paper that I'm going to bring over here to the side. I'm going to add some of that in. Actually, you know what I could do is I could add something a little different here. I do have some of this. Think about it. I've got some. These are wood chips, pine chips. That might be a little bit better than add a little bit texture to the material. I've got more of those too. I'm not too worried about them, but kind of add a little bit extra texture, which I think can be good for some of these systems. And spread this out. I know that there were not many worms in there, it looked like, but there's a lot more than I expected. As I said, I have been feeding them. And now this way, this can hopefully absorb any of the extra moisture that comes up to the surface. And what I'm really hoping for is that the worms will eat the food in there, it heats up, heats up first, worms eat the food, and then the moisture kind of floats to the surface and it'll absorb in here, and that way they can break this part down too. We'll see if this works, but right now the big thing is that I'm going to have to add a fan down here to make sure I get rid of any of those spores that are in the air, and hopefully it doesn't spread anywhere else. I don't have a lot of cardboard around except for my cardboard that I just threw in there, and almost everything's dry, so shouldn't be too much of an issue, but I'll still probably add a filter. And that's it for my update. By the way, if you're curious what kind of filters I'm using, it's a Corsi Rosenthal box that I built myself. Just kind of filters out the pollen and stuff out of the air in the house or any smoke or anything. But also good for filtering out these things and viruses as well. So with that, thank you for watching. If you have any questions, please leave a comment down below and let me know. Thank you.